Right, a very warm welcome to all of our Easy Properties investors. Today we're going to be talking about Orlando Towers and the Soweto township market. And I'm very delighted to be able to welcome Tim Akinnusi, who is the founder and CEO of Mortgage Market. Tim's somewhat of an expert in these areas, and we are looking forward to tapping a lot of his vast knowledge to find out more about the Orlando Towers opportunity. So welcome to you, Tim.
Thank you for having me, Rupert. It's good to be here with the Easy Properties community, hey?
Awesome.
Yeah.
So Tim, maybe as a bit of a start, won't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you found yourself in the property industry, and what led you to kind of start Mortgage Market?
Yeah. So I'm Tim Akinnusi. I sort of have a background in banking. I've been in banking now for north of 13 odd years, and 10 of that has been in home loans. So I ended up in home loans, not by design, but by chance, really. I joined Nedbank just after the global financial crisis had hit, where they had lost about $1.5 billion. And we're essentially looking to rebuild their front end and rebuild how they continue to fund in the home loan space. And so I built a digital channels platform for them, which was how they essentially were able to get access to customers directly coming through to them without going through a broker or going through a branch channel, etc. And that took off. It was the first ever platform in South Africa where a customer could self-originate a home loan without having to even speak to anyone at all. And that channel now contributes about 25% of their volume for their business. So that was where the idea of Mortgage Market came from. And so fast forward, this was back in 2012. Fast forward 2018, 2019, I then got an opportunity to step out of corporate. And I said, well, if one customer could make a single application to one bank, why couldn't they not make that same single application to a platform of lenders, so the 7 banks in the country that lend? And how could we then pay them an amount of 5,000 in cash back for self-serving? And that's what we did. And we created the first ever end-to-end customer platform and marketplace for home loans, where an individual could literally self-originate a loan through all of the lenders and compare deals in a way that they could, I suppose, negotiate the best rate and save as much as 0.5% on their home loan, and then would pay them an amount of 5,000 in cash back for doing so. So that's the platform that we created, and it's called Mortgage Market. So very self-explanatory. It's a marketplace for home loans.
Sure, it's unbelievable. I think well, first of all, congratulations, because I also know that you are a very humble person and you've won awards and you've been on the front cover of magazines and a bit of a celebrity in this prop tech space. So congratulations to you. I think there's also a very long history, I think, within the broader Easy group, the Easy Equities group, Easy Crypto, Easy Properties, that really admires and looks up to entrepreneurs. So hopefully after this podcast goes live, you can share obviously all your social handles towards the end, and can engage with some of the community as well.
Sure, no, I appreciate that.
Cool. So, obviously we're basically here today, not only to punt your business, but we're obviously here today to talk about essentially the township property market, and how the Orlando Towers estate is kind of set to, potentially change views on the affordable housing market. So maybe as a bit of an introduction, maybe you can tell us a little bit about Orlando Towers Estate and what your kind of involvement is there.
Yeah. So Orlando Towers Estate is a brand new sort of affordable housing lifestyle estate that's going to be happening in Soweto. And The founders and the architects of it is Derek Stein, who is the previous founder of Calgro M3, which are a listed company. They're the largest affordable housing developer in the country. And Derek's idea has been to say, how do we transform property and bring a lot more value and saleable assets into the affordable housing space? So when you think about affordable housing, right, you think about a development that's happening, sort of like 30 k's away from like the next economic hub, right? So people having to travel long distance away, and you'd probably think about a place that's like maybe just a house, a 4-room house that has very little, amenities, very little lifestyle related facilities, etc. And so we don't think that's the way to really grow property in this country. We don't think that those units will yield really good returns over a 5-year period. And the idea was, how do we bring and transform the township market by bringing in a development that's within the township, that's well located, that has access to great schools, hospitals, roads, and social lifestyle facilities. And of course, township property historically has not been property that has all the key attributes of what a great asset eventually becomes within the property space. So I'm talking about this utility value around property. So being able to use it for multiple things, right? And when I say multiple things, you can work in it, you can rent it out, you can, transform certain rooms, etc. The second part about that is that how do you create an asset that will appreciate in value over time? And then the third one is, how do you create an asset that you can trade and actually sell? Because historically, township property has been about just the shelter aspect of it, right? You live in it, you pass it down to your children, but you can never really monetize it by gearing it up and going to a bank and saying, I want to get some access to cash and use the property as collateral, right?
Yeah.
And so that has been the challenge with it. But we all know townships aren't going anywhere, right? Soweto is the biggest township in this country. It's iconic, right? It represents a lot. So the only way up is to transform the landscape of how new property comes into the area that banks can actually put a value against, and it can then start to get to the same heights that any other real estate complex or townhouse in Fourways or Randburg, etc., can be built in a township. And so that's what Orlando Towers is. It is a well-located lifestyle estate. It's literally opposite Orlando Towers. It's beautiful. Across the road from it is the Bara Mall, which has also been upgraded. Down the road is Maponya Mall. From it, UJ is a big university that's literally 1.2 kilometers away from it. And Chris Hani Baragwanath is another 2 kilometers away from it. So it has all of the amenities that give property its true intrinsic value that actually allows it to appreciate in value.
Absolutely.
So the second part about that is that if you don't want to live in it, you can actually rent it out and get a ridiculously good yield from it, because university staff are going to want to rent it. Nurses around the area from Bara Hospital are going to want to rent it. And of course, you can also then use it for anyone who does live in the South or operates in town or in Sandton, but want to be in Soweto. They can also rent it from a long-term lease standpoint. So for us, the moment we heard about it, we were like, I want to get into it, because that is the sort of property that you want to be vested in, not just from an investment standpoint, but also it lends credibility to say that we were part of the team that brought this first lifestyle estate to Soweto for a really good price as well. Starting price there being 670,000 Rand for a 2-bedroom, all the way to 938,000 for a 3-bedroom unit. It's going to have a creche in it. It's going to have a clubhouse in it, parking for every single resident. It's going to have biometric. It's going to have a soccer, AstroTurf sort of facility, as well as braai areas across the area. And we've also then done a deal with MTN to bring Wi-Fi for a year to every resident. That will be given away a router plus 50 gigs of Wi-Fi per month for an entire year for free for anyone who does their home loan through Mortgage Market in the process.
Amazing. I mean, there's also just that little fact that over 40% of all of the residents in Johannesburg just happen to live in Soweto. So over and above the nurses and the students and obviously close to those transport hubs, I know that there's just this amazing upwardly mobile young millennial community who now are looking out for their own places. They don't necessarily want to buy straight away, but definitely want to live in these kind of lifestyle estates, which obviously hugely increases the demand and rentability for these particular units.
100%,
Tim, it's interesting. I mean, maybe it might be interesting for our community to know how we came about. And I mean, I remember reading a press release about this opportunity. And I basically hunted you down through the kind of press and through various people and all of that, but for that exact same reason. I just thought that Easy Properties as a business and a community of property investors do not want to miss out on this particular opportunity. The first ever iconic lifestyle estate in the most iconic township and one of the most iconic suburbs in the whole of South Africa, really. It was too good to be true. So your kind of passion, which is obviously very self-evident, caught my attention and our investors' attention, and obviously all look to climb in as well.
I mean, and even on just that note, equally, when I saw Easy Properties and what Easy Properties does, I said to myself, gee whiz, I need to actually speak to Rupert about this, because when you think about when you invest, right, property as an asset class, one of the drawbacks, I would say, that some people don't necessarily want to get involved in is this idea of I've got to now manage it and maintain it and all that stuff. But if I could own it fractionally and get the same yield, but just not have the other part of it, then that's a win-win. And
absolutely. Absolutely.
So equally, I was excited to meet up with you, and I'm glad that we got talking. It's
exciting. I mean, and so maybe it brings me to my next point, but I know there was a lot of community engagement when the initial plans were being done, and maybe you can tell us a little bit how the development was received by the community.
Oh yeah, that was a critical part of the whole process, because as you know, townships have wards, and townships are also a place where people always have this sense that if you were going to come in as a business owner and you want to trade with them, that you're doing that in a way that is building that community, right? This is not about sort of the old adage of going into a place, benefiting from it, and then taking the wealth out of the place, right? And that was such a fundamental part of this whole process, was that we had a community engagement. We sat down with small businesses around the area, told them what was happening. They got really excited about it. We appointed a community CLO that essentially is that go-to person that will allow for the construction house and every other part of the value chain of subcontractors and various artisans to come from that community. Fantastic. To be invested in and in building that, and also benefiting from the supply chain of what will happen when that development goes off the ground, right? So
fantastic.
We're talking artisans, plumbers, electricians, laborers, semi-skilled laborers. All of that will come from that community. So it's not just about this development going up that's privately funded, but you are actually creating jobs and opportunities for people in that community. And it's such a big win-win and such an obvious thing. And yeah, so that has been a nice sort of residual value that's come out of this whole project.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, two things to that. There's been a huge request from our property investor community to look for social impact investment opportunities. And I think what you've just described just literally ticks those boxes. Investors obviously all want to generate good returns, but you want to do it in a way that is sustainable and generates that kind of impact, which clearly this development has done. So that's very, very exciting. And I know a lot of our investors are going to be very happy to hear that. I mean, the other aspect, which is obviously wonderful, which you know about, is the fact that all of those people who've had an opportunity to be engaged with or work on the project or whatever the story might be, or who commuting to and from and seeing this thing come up on the ground. I mean, I was there a couple of days ago, as you know. Via Easy Properties, they've actually all got an opportunity to invest in this development as well. So it's not only for the young upward mobile millennials and the professionals, whatever. Anyone who's interested in investing this opportunity can do so through our fractional model and Easy Properties. So it really is democratizing access to this kind of investment, which is obviously wonderful. So
100%.
Yeah. So Tim, I mean, obviously, a lot of people wouldn't have invested in township property market or in the markets. And clearly there's some kind of uncertainty around those investing in these areas. I mean, what in your experience, having dealt with a lot of buyers now in the area and dealt with a lot of people, what are the common misconceptions about the township property markets and investing in these markets?
Yeah, I suppose, the misconception is that obviously you won't know the area, so you won't know how to move within those spaces, right? And I think it's all about that familiarity, right? If I'm unfamiliar with something, I become, a little bit skeptical about it because I don't know, I don't come from that area. And I think the misconception could be that people do not pay rent, as an example, right? That couldn't be further from the truth because, in this market, right, a lot of what people value is their ability to have a roof over their heads that they can put, like, whatever income they earn, the priority is to make those payments consistently, right? And I've heard of situations, and it's kind of a little bit of a positive and a negative. On the negative side, being that a lot of people feel like they get taken advantage of, right? So you have tenants who, literally could afford to buy their own places, but they rent and they give the investor an amazing yield of like 12, 13%, right? And purely because they have not been aware that they could potentially actually buy the place that they're renting at. And I think that's a little bit of a negative from my side. But the positive is that from an investing standpoint, you get to be able to, buy a place that somebody will literally be paying more than whatever bond amount that you have on that place, right? Especially now that we're in upward interest rate cycle high, you find a lot more people stay out of the market and rent more. Yeah. So it becomes an investor market where if you can afford to buy a place and rent out, you'll get the right yield from it because of that sentiment around, the affordability aspect of it.
Yeah.
I don't think beyond that, beyond the familiarity of knowing where to go to find your tenant if your tenant couldn't pay, I think that's been the one thing that potentially would put off anyone who wants to invest. And I think that's where Easy Properties has done an amazing job in saying, hey, well, you don't have to worry about the typical landlord, tenant type dynamic, which, by the way, applies anywhere. When you are a landlord, is that you get that taken care of, and you can invest as much as you want and understand what your yield is, without ever having to even step into any of those communities, which is like the perfect vehicle for me, right? So I obviously have, not obviously, but I'm fortunate to have my own properties, and I'm also an investor. And I have in the past purchased property where I could be down the road from it, right? And so for OT, if I didn't have the management team on site, right, I'd also be a little bit nervous about saying, well, how do I, manage my unit? So I've decided to invest in two fronts, which is on the Easy Properties platform. So I'll be putting in some money into OT via that, and also taking up a number of units because, I'm also part of the team that would be managing, the development. It's a really big one. And the fact that, we are building the community out over a number of years means that there's a big reliance on maintaining the place and making sure that that it is not a highly investor, that there's not a high mix of investors, but there's a mix of investors as well as owner
and residents. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, which bodes well for a good sustained development.
Yeah, and Tim, I mean, you mentioned there the kind of long-term nature of the development. I mean, maybe give us a bit of a view on what's happening there over the next few years in the broader kind of area.
Yeah, so lots of wonderful things coming. There's going to be 4 phases of it. So we're going to have Orlando Towers South, which is the very first phase. Then there's going to be East, West, North, and that then becomes like this big community that will arise from there. We'll be having more schools come in, petrol stations. Like I said, Borough Mall is getting an upgrade as well. So it helps to say that there's going to be a bigger community of like, call it the newer part of the new Soweto will arise as a result of this, because it's in the best area of Soweto. It's not like deep into Soweto. It's right off the fringes of Southgate and access to the highway. So there's going to be a lot of new amenities coming through. Chuck Pawsey, which is a restaurant at the Two Towers, they're also going to be really excited by that because they'll be expanding on the sports bar and a few other social amenities around the site because that's a big tourist attraction as well. Yeah. So that sort of bodes well for like the Airbnb type structures to even come about in that area.
Amazing. And I mean, I know one of the benefits, I know that there are going to be 2,800 units built there over the next few years. Yeah. And I think one of the benefits about all of us who are investing in the Orlando Towers estate, phase 1, is that not only are you getting your kind of natural progression in capital growth, but you're also getting the capital growth within a broader precinct, buying in first. By the time that the last 500 houses are built or the last 1,000 houses are built, they're definitely not going to be at today's prices. So you're almost getting a double effect of this kind of capital growth in the area.
Absolutely. And that's the one thing I don't know how that slipped my mind is the prices are going to be going up after this first phase. So the next phase, because we'll understand the mix of the demand, they'll be repricing those accordingly. And like, I think it goes without saying, right? There is an inflationary challenge that we all face globally. And so the cost of bricks are going up. The cost of input material is going up. So naturally, the pricing is bound to kick up by another 6%. So you're already to the good by investing in this first phase. You'll already have appreciation of 6% by the time the 1,000 house is already built. Yours will be valued at a lot more because that will be priced at a lot more than what you came in.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know that, I mean, the figures that we've used in our projections have been quite conservative, both from a capital growth point of view and from a yield point of view. I really am expecting us to outperform there. So Tim, maybe just kind of generally, I see we're nearly running out of time. In the last while, maybe give us a view of what you feel is the biggest opportunity in property that you've noticed over the last little while, some trend or whatever that might be.
Yeah, I think, COVID has changed a dynamic that was quite a worrying trend pre-COVID, where people were thinking, property is not sexy. It's not the sort of investment to be in. People didn't want to own homes. They wanted to all rent and have this view. And, COVID just reminded all of us that, housing is everything, right? This ability to have a house that you can do, not just have as shelter, but have it as a place of work, a place to socialize, a place to, do just so much more in it, right?
Yeah, as a refuge, a refuge from this chaos that goes out in the world at the time.
Absolutely. And obviously, having COVID, people have understood that they need to have a place that they can literally live in for a good 15 to 20 hours of a day, right? Which has meant that you have to have a really good place to live. And then secondly, off the back of that, a lot of us are now in hybrid work structures. So you don't have to travel and waste petrol, by being on the road every day. So then your place needs to be an area where you can take, work seriously. And so that has meant that property and community are now a fundamental part of how you see property into the future, right? And having a place that has amenities and is closely networked with a whole bunch of things is what everybody is going for. So that's the new trend. It's going to be about people reevaluating and saying, I at least want to have and own my own place, because that's the one thing I can be guaranteed, that regardless of where world economy goes, right, the utility value of a house can never be overstated. Absolutely. And I think that's where the trend is going now. So, yeah.
Well, I'm really looking forward to, as you know, whenever we kind of finish an IPO, we always end up with thousands and thousands of investors in some of these properties. And I'm looking forward to having, I know, I'm going to guess, maybe you and I should take a little wager, but I reckon we're going to have about 6,000 people invest in Orlando Towers. And I hope all the units that we rent out to actually rent it out to investors. That would be particularly amazing. So maybe, sorry.
I think that'd be awesome, and I think that your guess is probably the right one. I think if there's a number of investors that get in here, sure, they will really benefit from the upside, as this development grows. And what we've done is that we've set a benchmark for how developers need to operate in the affordable housing space, is that they've got to put people before profits, right? So if you think about how this has been constructed, the quality of the finishings, the bathrooms, the renders that we put out are the exact type fixtures and finishings that will be in those homes, right? And that's what I loved about it. I was like, this is a developer that it has literally decided to take a less margin to put in better quality in, because of the product that they want to have at the end of the day. So that means that every other developer that comes along and wants to, build in a new township, they also have to up their game, and they also have to put quality and not try to skimp or just have a
cut corners.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that being said, you're getting access to a development where there's a mission that goes beyond just profit taken here, and it's nation building, and I think that's it's a really big positive for us.
Fantastic. And I think that's one of the things which excited me so much from an Easy Properties point of view, to be able to help package an opportunity like this with your help and then offer it into our investor base. I mean, I know that our community are going to really enjoy this one, which is really awesome. Tim, if people want to look you up on social and connect with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, please, they should visit us on Instagram. We're at mortgage.market. And on Facebook, we're at mortgagemarkets_SA, or just visit our website. It's mortgagemarket.co.za. We will be able to reach out to you. Our service is not just about getting you bonds. It's about giving you the right advice into how to get into property, regardless of what stage you're at, regardless of your income stream, we'll be able to assist you. And we have lots of developments under our pipeline that we can connect you with, and just ensure that your journey to building up your property portfolio or being a first-time home buyer is not a nightmare, but actually turning that into an absolute asset. So please do reach out to us, and we are looking forward to engaging with you.
Lekker. And I'm sure our community are going to see much more of you as well. I mean, we've got the sod turning event coming up in the new year, and a lot of really exciting marketing initiatives coming out of your group. So no doubt they'll see more of you in a lot of our communications. But Tim, 100%. From me, just a really big thank you for sharing all of those insights. It was really, really interesting. And awesome. Looking forward to a successful raise on Easy Properties.
I'm looking forward to it. And just lastly to say, early next year, we are having an exciting giveaway. We're going to be giving away a house to one lucky person who purchases in there. And if you're an Easy Properties investor, you also go into that pool. So you'll be able to have a fractional part of the development, and also going to a draw to win a house. So
essentially the SPV will be entered in, and potentially our pool of investors may get one extra free house if we win.
100%.
Oh, that's very exciting. Tim, thanks, and look forward to seeing you in the new year.
Awesome. Thanks, Rupert. Appreciate it.